There is a Japanese word, 2 characters, that I learned on a Tuesday. By Saturday, 80% of everything I owned was gone. Not because I forced myself. Not because I read a minimalism book. Because the word made the decision obvious. The word is Danshari. Most people translate it as declutter. Some translate it as letting go. Both translations miss the point entirely. Danshari is 3 separate words, 3 separate practices, compressed into one philosophy. Dan-sha-ri. And when you understand what each one actually means, 80% of your possessions will volunteer to leave. Dan means to refuse, to cut, to sever, not to discard what you have, to stop before something enters. The samurai understood Dan as a sword principle. The sword that cuts clearly, cleanly, before the enemy reaches the gate, is more valuable than the sword that fights the enemy inside. Dan is the gate. Application of Dan. Before you bring anything new into your life, any purchase, any gift accepted, any subscription started, you pause. You ask, will this serve my actual present life? Not the life I plan to have. Not the person I intend to become. My actual present life, right now. Most things cannot answer yes. Dan stops them at the gate. Sha means discard. To release. To throw. But in Danshari, Sha is not about the object. Sha is about the relationship between you and the object. The question Sha asks is not, is this object useful? The question Sha asks is, who is the person keeping this object, and is that still who I am? The jacket kept for a version of yourself that hasn't arrived. The books kept to signal an intellect you haven't yet developed. The gifts kept not from love, but from obligation. Sha says, release the self that needed these. Not the object, the self. This is why Sha is not cleaning. It is honest autobiography. Ri means to detach, to separate, to become free. Ri is the most misunderstood stage. Most people think Ri means stop caring about possessions, become cold, become ascetic. Ri means the opposite. Ri means develop such a complete and loving relationship with the objects that do serve your life, that the objects that don't become impossible to confuse with the ones that do. The Zen monk is not detached from his bowl. He is completely attached. He knows that bowl in the way that only 15 years of daily use creates. That depth of relationship with a few things is Ri. It makes everything else, obviously, simply, immediately, unnecessary. The samurai understood Danshari as a survival philosophy, not a lifestyle aesthetic. He carried 3 things. His sword, his armor, his discipline. Dan, he refused everything else at the gate. Sha, he released every attachment to a past self who needed more. Ri, he developed such complete devotion to his 3 possessions, that no other object could create desire in him. His simplicity was not poverty. It was the most sophisticated relationship with objects that a human being can have. Danshari is not minimalism. Minimalism is an aesthetic. It asks, how little can I own and still appear sophisticated? Danshari is a practice. It asks, what is my actual honest present relationship with everything I keep? Minimalism can be performed. Danshari cannot. Danshari is not KonMari. KonMari asks, does this spark joy? A sentimental answer to a practical question. Danshari asks, does this serve my actual present practice of being alive? A philosophical answer to a philosophical question. Danshari is not decluttering. Decluttering is rearranging what you've decided to keep. Danshari is questioning, with radical honesty, why you decided to keep anything. When I finally understood all 3 stages, Dan-sha-ri, as one complete philosophy, I walked through my home with one question: what is my honest present relationship with this? Not, is it useful? Not, did I pay a lot for it? Not, might I need it someday? Honest. Present. Relationship. 80% of what I owned had no honest present relationship with me at all. It had a past relationship, with a version of me that was gone. Or a future relationship, with a version of me that hadn't arrived. What remained, 20%, I knew completely. I used completely. I valued completely. And the 20% was enough. Was more than enough. There is a teaching inside Danshari that goes deeper than possessions. The same 3 questions apply to relationships, to commitments, to thoughts you've been carrying since a version of yourself that no longer exists. Dan, what am I still allowing in that doesn't serve my present life? Sha, what relationship, commitment, or thought pattern am I keeping for a self that is already gone? Re, what, and who, deserves my complete and devoted present attention? Danshari is not about objects. It never was. The word that changed everything is yours now. Dan. Sha. Re. Here is how to begin, tonight, with one object. Pick up one thing. Any one thing in your home. And ask, with complete honesty, what is my present relationship with this? Not useful or not useful. Not joy or no joy. Present. Honest. Relationship. Comment the word Danshari if the word has just changed something in you. Save this video. You will want the 3 stages when you are ready for each one. Subscribe. The complete Japanese wisdom series continues. The word is yours. What remains will be enough.